Success is not about the trophies on your shelf, but the peace in your heart when no one is watching. We've been sold a lie that success is only about money, fame, applause, and status. That it lives in big houses, shiny cars, and crowded rooms that call your name. But here's the truth. Real success has nothing to prove and everything to feel. It's not about what the world sees, it's about what you live with when the lights go out. Real success is waking up with purpose and going to bed with peace. It's living a life that feels right on the inside, not one that just looks good on the outside. It's about the relationships you build, the values you hold, the integrity you refuse to sacrifice even when it costs you applause. It's not found in the noise of the crowd, but in the quiet moments of knowing you didn't betray yourself just to be liked. Anyone can chase status, anyone can play the game, but real success, it's deeper. It's honest, it's sustainable. Because when you strip away the titles, the numbers, and the spotlight, what's left is you. And if you don't love who you are underneath it all, then no amount of success will ever feel like enough. I want to invite you today to pause. To pause long enough to ask yourself not what the world wants from you, but what your soul longs for. Real success is not something you can put in a bank account or on a resume. Real success is something you carry within your heart. So let me walk you through 4 powerful truths that will redefine success not as the world sees it, but as your soul was always meant to live it. So ask yourself, are you building a life that others admire or one that you truly love living? Success is embracing your story, not escaping it. There is a silent strength in owning the story you once tried to hide. The chapters filled with pain, the pages soaked in tears, the lines marked by loss, they're not proof of weakness, but testaments of survival. To embrace your story is to take back the power from the very things that try to silence you. The world will always try to tell you what beauty looks like, what strength should be, what success must appear as. But when you carry your story with pride, you become the definition that no one can rewrite. Your journey becomes the language others read hope in. So many people walk through life wearing masks, afraid to be seen for who they truly are. They edit their lives for acceptance, trimming the parts that don't fit into society's frame. But real success comes when you tear off that mask and say, "This is me, unfiltered, unapologetic, unbreakable." Your wounds are not meant to be hidden, they are meant to be honored. Every scar on your body, every crack in your soul, they speak of nights you thought you wouldn't survive but did. They speak of resilience disguised as suffering. Let them be visible. You don't have to erase your past to build your future. In fact, the more you deny your journey, the more you stay trapped in the illusion of someone else's expectations. The moment you own your narrative, you unlock a new level of freedom that no material success can offer. There is nothing more powerful than a human being who has looked into the eyes of pain and still found reasons to smile. Not because life was perfect, but because they decided that their story was still worth telling, still worth living, still worth loving. People will often admire the version of you that looks the most put together. But it's the raw, real, scarred version that carries the most light. That's the version that changes lives, touches hearts, and gives others permission to breathe freely in their own brokenness. Embracing your story means walking into rooms without shrinking yourself. It means sitting at the table of life with everything you've endured, refusing to tuck away your truth just to be palatable. It means knowing that your story has worth even when others don't understand it. When you stop hiding the chapters of struggle, something miraculous happens. You find others who needed those very words to keep going. What once felt like a curse becomes a calling. What once felt like shame becomes a source of strength. You become a lighthouse for others, lost in their own storms. The most beautiful souls are not the untouched ones. They are the ones who have been through hell and returned with a heart still willing to love. Embracing your story gives you the power to heal not just yourself, but others walking a path you once knew too well. Don't let the world convince you that your past disqualifies you from success. It is your past that equips you. The rejections, the betrayals, the silent nights, they were not detours, they were preparation. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. Stop apologizing for where you've been. The detours were divine. The delays were necessary. Every stumble taught you a lesson that no textbook ever could. You may have walked through fire, but you came out with gold in your soul. That is success becoming better, not bitter. There will be people who walk away when they see your truth. Let them. They were only meant to love the highlight reel, not the real you. The ones who stay, the ones who love you, in the mess, in the silence, in the depth, those are the people you build with. Your story matters. Not when it's perfect, not when it's polished, but especially when it's raw and honest and trembling with emotion. The world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more real ones, more courageous ones, more wounded warriors who still choose to speak. So today, choose to embrace every chapter, even the ones you once wished to tear out, even the ones that still bring tears to your eyes. Because those pages hold your power. And when you walk with all of it, not just the light, but the shadows, you are already living a kind of success that nothing in this world can match. Success is impact, not image. In a world obsessed with appearances, it becomes too easy to measure success by how many people are watching rather than how many people are being touched. But the truth is, image fades. It changes with time, with trends, with the crowd. Impact, on the other hand, leaves a permanent mark not on a screen, but on a soul. You can stand on the tallest stage and still feel the loneliest inside if your only goal is applause. You can gather followers by the thousands and still feel invisible if your presence lacks purpose. Because true success is not in being seen, it is in being felt. The people who make the deepest impact are rarely the loudest ones. They are the quiet encouragers, the gentle warriors, the ones who show up with love when no one is watching. They leave behind more than words, they leave warmth. They create ripples that reach hearts far beyond what any spotlight could. Success isn't having a brand, it's having a legacy. It's knowing that long after the applause dies down, someone out there remembers how you made them feel safe, heard, and loved. That's what lives on when the lights go out. That's what can never be faked or staged. Sometimes, the most impactful thing you will ever do is show up when someone needs you most. Not with answers, not with solutions, but with presence, with grace, with empathy that says, I see you, you are not alone. That is where real power lies, in the simplicity of being human. You don't have to be famous to be successful. You just have to be faithful to your purpose. You just have to live a life where your energy speaks louder than your resume, where your integrity speaks louder than your influence, where your heart leads louder than your title. There are people who will never remember your name but will never forget the way you love them. That is success. There are moments that will never make the news but will make a difference in someone's entire existence. That is success. It's not glamorous, but it is divine. The world teaches us to curate perfect lives, to filter out flaws, to display only the moments that shine. But impact is made in the messy parts, the unedited moments when someone sees your scars and feels comforted because they have scars too. That is connection. That is meaning. When you lead with image, your value is temporary. But when you lead with impact, your value becomes eternal. Trends change, looks fade, positions shift. But the way you pour light into another soul that transcends time, that becomes your true reflection in this world. Don't spend your life climbing ladders that lead to nowhere. Don't chase numbers that never satisfy. Instead, ask yourself, whose life is better because I existed today? That's the only measure that matters. That's the only scoreboard worth playing for. There is a quiet kind of success that doesn't scream, it just shows up. It holds the door open. It forgives before being asked. It picks up the phone. It smiles at a stranger. It listens when no one else does. It doesn't ask to be noticed, it simply serves. And in doing so, it changes everything. People won't always remember what you did for them, but they will always remember how you did it, with love or with indifference, with compassion or with judgment, with patience or with pride. Your daily choices are your legacy in motion. You don't need a platform to be powerful. You don't need a microphone to be meaningful. You just need the courage to live authentically and the compassion to care deeply. When you combine those two, your life becomes a sanctuary for others, and that is real success. Let your life be the kind that others whisper about, not because of how perfect it looked, but because of how deeply it touched them. Let your kindness be the reason someone else finds the strength to keep going. Let your story be the seed that grows courage in someone else's wilderness. Don't just aim to be impressive, aim to be impactful. Don't just polish your image, nurture your essence. Because one day, the lights will fade, the crowds will move on, and all that will be left is the lives you've touched, the hearts you've lifted, and the love you've sown along the way. Success is courage in the face of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is walking forward while your knees tremble and your voice shakes. Real success is not about standing tall when everything is going well. It is about standing at all when the ground beneath you is crumbling. It is about choosing to take one more step when every voice inside your head tells you to give up. Fear has a way of disguising itself as logic. It whispers, stay safe, stay small, stay still. But courage is that inner fire that dares to rise, even if it rises slowly, even if it rises quietly, even if it rises while everything around it tries to keep it down. And that rising, that quiet rebellion against fear, that is the beginning of real success. The world loves to celebrate the end results, the trophies, the awards, the public victories. But the truest victories happen in private, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the tears you wipe alone, in the risks you take with no guarantee. That quiet courage, that is the foundation of everything extraordinary. We often wait for fear to leave before we act, but fear rarely leaves. It simply watches to see if you'll move anyway. Courage is about saying, I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway. It's about trusting that your spirit was not made for hiding but for rising, even when the rising is messy. There is power in the decision to show up again, to try again, to love again, to trust again. Courage is not a one-time act, it's a daily choice. It's waking up to your fears and saying, you may visit, but you will not control me. And in that moment, you reclaim your life. So many dreams die because of the fear of failure. But failure is not the enemy, fear is. Every successful person you admire has failed, stumbled, doubted themselves. The difference is they chose courage over comfort. They chose to keep going not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. You don't have to wait until you're unafraid to begin. Begin afraid, begin unsure, begin with your hands shaking, but begin. Because every act of courage rewrites your story. It sends a message to your soul that says, I am capable, I am enough, I am becoming. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, I will try again tomorrow. And that whisper, that soft but steady voice of resilience, that is what carries you forward. That is what separates surviving from thriving. That is what builds the kind of success that can weather any storm. Don't underestimate the courage it takes to live with authenticity, to speak your truth, to walk away from what is safe and known, to begin again. It may not come with applause, but it comes with peace. And that peace is worth everything. Success isn't always about winning battles. Sometimes it's simply about choosing not to surrender, to fear, to shame, to the inner critic that says you're not enough. Choosing courage is choosing to believe in your worth, even when you feel broken. Even when the world doesn't understand you, it takes courage to heal, to face the parts of yourself you were taught to hide, to feel deeply in a world that tells you to be numb. But every step toward healing is a step toward freedom. And freedom to be fully and wholly yourself is one of the highest forms of success. You may not always see the impact of your courage immediately. But every time you choose bravery, you plant a seed in your heart, in someone else's. And one day, that seed becomes a tree, a shelter for others who are searching for strength in their own darkness. You don't have to climb mountains in a single day. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Just take the next step. Just speak the truth. Just breathe and try again. Courage is built in the small moments, in the choices no one sees, in the inner victories that rewrite your future. You will be tested. You will be shaken. You will feel like giving up. But every time you don't, every time you stand back up, even if your legs wobble, you are succeeding. You are becoming. You are stepping into the truest version of yourself. And that version is unstoppable. Let your courage be louder than your doubt. Let it be your anthem when fear comes knocking. Let it be the reason you keep dreaming, even when it feels foolish. Because courage doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of everyone who watches you rise. Success is being at peace with yourself. There is a kind of success that the world rarely talks about, a success that has nothing to do with applause, status, or wealth. It's the quiet success of looking in the mirror and truly liking who you are. It's waking up in the morning with a calm heart. It's going to sleep at night without regret heavy on your chest. That is peace. And peace is success. So many chase outer accomplishments hoping they will heal an inner ache. But no promotion, no title, no amount of followers can quiet the storm inside a restless soul. The most valuable victory is not over the world, but over your own self-doubt, your guilt, your shame, and your past. Being at peace with yourself doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you've learned to embrace your imperfections. It means you no longer bully yourself for not having it all figured out. It means you've stopped measuring your worth by how productive you are and started honoring who you are becoming. Success is not about how fast you run. It's about how fully you live. It's about saying yes to what aligns with your soul and no to what drains your light. It's about giving yourself permission to breathe, to rest, to cry, to heal and not feel guilty about it. When you are at peace with yourself, you stop chasing things just to prove something to others. You no longer need to be the loudest in the room to feel valuable. You don't need to wear your pain as proof of strength. You begin to understand that peace is not weakness, it is wisdom. Peace comes when you let go of the need to be understood by everyone. You release the heavy burden of trying to explain your journey to those who were never meant to walk it with you. You begin to realize that your truth is still valid even if it is not applauded. There is freedom in acceptance. Not resignation, but the kind of radical acceptance that says, this is who I am, these are my scars, this is my story, and I choose to live it without shame. That kind of peace cannot be bought. It must be earned through courage and honesty. Being at peace with yourself allows you to stop competing. You no longer see others as threats because you understand that your journey is yours alone. You celebrate others without shrinking yourself. You shine without needing to dim anyone else's light. There will always be people who misunderstand your peace and mistake it for passivity. Let them. You do not need to defend a life that is rooted in integrity. You do not need to explain the joy that comes from healing. You just keep walking quietly, gracefully, powerfully. When you are at peace, you no longer chase closure from people who cannot give it. You no longer beg for love that needs to be earned. You no longer search for validation in places that only offer emptiness. Instead, you build a sanctuary within yourself and that becomes your true home. You don't need to do 1,000 things to feel successful. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is pause, to sit in silence, to listen to your soul, to reconnect with the parts of yourself that were buried under years of noise and performance. Inner peace is a quiet rebellion in a world that profits off your insecurity. Choosing to be at peace with yourself is the boldest declaration that you are enough not because someone said so, but because you decided to believe it. That belief becomes your foundation. When you are at peace, your energy changes. Your relationships change. You attract truth. You repel chaos. You stop begging and start receiving. You stop clinging and start flowing. Peace does not make your life perfect, but it makes your life yours again. It's not always easy. There will be moments when old wounds resurface when the world feels too loud, when your reflection feels unfamiliar. But every time you return to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you are succeeding. Every time you choose gentleness over judgment, you are growing. Let your life be built on peace, not pressure. Let your worth be defined by who you are, not by what you produce. Let your joy come from alignment, not achievement. Because when you are at peace with yourself, you have already arrived at the most meaningful form of success, at the end of the day. Real success is not a destination, it is a devotion. A devotion to growth, to purpose, to inner alignment. It is not the loudest voice in the room or the tallest trophy on the shelf. It is the whisper in your heart that says, you stayed true. It's not just about how many people know your name. It's about how deeply you know your own soul. We have been taught to chase the world, but real success begins when we come home to ourselves. When we give ourselves permission to heal, to start again, to walk through fear with trembling hands but an unshakable spirit. Success is not found in a life without scars, it's found in the courage to wear those scars as medals of survival and strength. It is in the choice to keep showing up when life knocks you down. To love when it feels safer, to guard, to serve others, even while you're still healing. It is in the quiet surrender to peace when the world demands performance. It is in the deep knowing that you do not need to earn your worth, it was always yours. Success is not about escaping pain, it is about transforming it. Not about pretending to have it all together, but having the humility to say, I'm still learning, but I'm moving forward. The real success story is the one where you become whole, where you begin to live not from expectation, but from authenticity. So if you are rising, even slowly you are succeeding. If you're speaking your truth, even softly you are succeeding. If you are healing, even quietly you are succeeding. If you are at peace with your pace, you have already arrived. Because the most profound success is becoming someone your soul is proud of.